Okay, so I'm gonna kick us off because we have four speakers today, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time for discussion, and I'll keep letting people in as they arrive. But I shared at the beginning, please introduce yourself in the chat, share your name, affiliation, anything relevant to today's discussion on solar training for microgrids in the chat. And so yes, welcome to the Alaska Energy Training Group. My name is Jenny Stars. I work for REAP, Renewable Energy Alaska Project. I'm the program manager for the Alaska Network for Energy Education and Employment, or ANE. And we host the Alaska Energy Training Group, quarterly meetup of energy professionals, really spread throughout Alaska's training and troubleshooting and technical assistance landscape, really with the shared goal of improving coordination and improving, the services that we're all offering and relying on. And it's definitely a shared initiative. We facilitate in collaboration with the Denali Commission and really open to everyone's ideas and participation throughout the energy sector. And today we are going to be discussing training for successful solar microgrid projects. The last few years have definitely seen a big acceleration in solar projects being integrated into Alaska's, primarily diesel-dependent microgrids. Hopefully the next few years will be bringing more of the same. I know there's a little bit of uncertainty about projects right now, but there's still a lot to learn about past projects and to really make sure we're keeping in mind for those projects moving forward to make sure that they are operating efficiently and that those investments are being safeguarded. So today we're really going to focus on delving into what exists in the training landscape and then what is needed, what needs more attention for these projects to be successful and to continue growing in the state. And we have some really experienced folks here to share about their programs and their expertise working throughout the state and really the nation on solar projects. And so we'll get into that in one sec. But I mentioned I started recording at the beginning. We'll share this recording after the fact, as well as some meeting minutes. If you have questions during the presentations, just stick them in the chat and we will either get them addressed after the individual presentation if it's, kind of like a clarifying point, or we'll just hold it until the discussion at the end so that we can really dive into the meat of it and let everybody weigh in. So without further ado, I will introduce our first presenter, Professor Chandler Kemp, from the UAF Bristol Bay campus. He's the Assistant Professor of Sustainable Energy and is going to be sharing about some of their solar installation trainings and the great work that they do on the Bristol Bay campus.
All right, thanks, Jenny. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity to share about our programs here. So like Jenny said, I'm assistant professor with the UAF Bristol Bay campus, and I'm going to speak about the solar energy training program that we have here, but also a little bit more context about the sustainable energy program generally and the rural campuses at UAF. So to put this program in context, I think when people think of UAF, they often think of the campus in Fairbanks, Troubleshooting, but we do have these 5 campuses that are explicitly designed to serve rural communities. So you have a campus in each of these 4 hubs in Western Alaska, as well as a campus in Fairbanks that's independent of Troubleshooting, serving interior Alaska. So I'm down here in Dillingham or Chukyoung, and we're part of the College of Indigenous Studies, and we host a sustainable energy program. And it's the only program within that college. And so we, even though we're based in Dillingham, we do try to serve, work with our partner campuses in the rest of Western Alaska to offer sustainable energy classes and particularly solar classes. So I've got our mission statement up here, but we try to serve the communities in our area by offering learning opportunities focused on topics of interest to our region. So in our campus, so those include sustainable energy, but also we offer classes in traditional crafts, adult education, marine advisory program, nursing program. So we offer a pretty broad variety of classes at our campus that are all in demand within our region. The sustainable energy program, so that's the program that I'm leading, is built around an occupational endorsement. So an occupational endorsement is a credential. It requires, in this case, 12 credits of coursework. And there's a couple of core classes that are required, and then students can choose from a variety of elective classes focused on different energy technologies or different aspects of sustainable energy. So we've got pictures here from a class on heat pumps and class on home energy efficiency. And once students graduate, they've used this type of credential to advance careers at the Alaska Energy Authority or with tribes. And we have a pretty big variety of students, including undergraduates who are excited about launching a career in sustainable energy, people that have retired from another career and are looking to be more involved in this area of work. And then I would say probably the majority of our students are people that are already working professionally, but have maybe transitioned into the energy field and are trying to get a foundational understanding there. And so the goal for the program for people that complete that endorsement is to have a fundamental understanding of the key issues of sustainable energy within Alaska. But one of the areas that we've really invested a lot in during the last several years is solar energy trainings. And we've invested in that space because, like Jenny said, there's been a lot of interest in the state. There's been a lot of projects that are coming online, a lot of funding coming into the state for solar energy. And in a lot of cases, it's a really cost-effective way to supply energy in rural Alaska. So we've invested a lot to try to make sure that there's a good workforce ready to develop quality solar projects in the state. So these classes are vocational in nature. They're really designed to support people that want to become solar professionals, whether that's participating in sales or design or installation itself. And our keystone class is called Photovoltaics 101 or PV 101. So students in this class get to learn how to perform basic calculations. They get to identify different types of PV systems, and they get to work with all the critical components of PV systems and understand how they work together. The curriculum we leased from a really well-known solar training organization called Solar Energy International. And so that's been valuable because this course, this PV 101 course from Solar Energy International, is well known enough in the industry that if people see that on a resume or something like that who work in the industry, they likely know what it means. And of course, we give a certificate of completion to people who complete the course as well. And we've also been developing some other classes to meet demand. We offered a 2-day off-grid solar class last spring. I'm trying to do that again this year. And we're also planning some more advanced classes using these larger components. So we have a miniature ground-mounted array that we're working with, and a solar converter there that we're working with. So students get a chance in that more advanced class to work with some components that are at the scale you would expect in a residential or commercial installation. And we've invested in that equipment and curriculum, but we've invested mostly in people. And so the instructors that are teaching these classes for us now, and Kolt is one of them, you'll hear from him in a minute, but they've all participated in 3 train the trainer classes. So they've learned about solar technology, but they've also had training specifically in how to be effective teachers. And so Kyle Bolger was also involved in that training as well, so he can give you some context as well. we've really invested a lot in people to make sure that the instructors are well prepared and can offer really quality courses. On top of that, the instructors that we're working with have brought their own experience to the program, whether it's running a business in solar or having, in Kolt's case, being an electrical administrator, or having experience working on solar projects in Alaska and in Alaska previous to becoming instructors. So yeah, so that's some of the highlights of our solar program, and looking forward to your questions. And yeah, if you'd like us to bring a class to your area, I'd love to hear from you. I've got my phone number there, as well as our student services manager here at the campus. And with that, I'll hand the floor back to you, Jenny.
Awesome. Thank you, Chandler. That was really illuminating. I know we've been able to send some folks to trainings in Bethel and Juneau in the last year, and I've heard really great things about the content and the classes. So thank you so much for sharing. I don't see any questions yet, so we'll move right along to Kolt Garvey, who is the co-owner of Sunstone Electric and a solar instructor, like Chandler mentioned. And he is going to talk a bit about what he's teaching with the classes that Chandler mentioned, as well as some of the additional operations and maintenance needs and gaps that he's seeing as he's, installing and maintaining these projects. So Kolt, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kolt Garvey. Let me just pull this up here real quick. So I can't see my notes, so that's awesome.
Do you want me to share instead? Would that be helpful?
I think so. I don't think we're going to be able to see the notes either way. If I don't, I will try my best. Oh, I will just try my best.
I believe in you.
So my name is Kolt Garvey. I'm the co-owner of Sunstone Electric. The other co-owner couldn't be here today. She's working, so you guys are stuck with me, unfortunately, because she's the far more eloquent and intelligent one. But I will do my best. We work a lot with rural workforce development and local workforce development on renewable projects in Alaska. I am the co-owner with Amanda of Sunstone Electric and Renewable Energy Systems. We are also adjunct faculty for Mr. Kemp, Professor Kemp's program. I cannot get over the Professor Kemp thing. I've known Professor Kemp for a long time, and he's always just been Chandler. So I'm gonna try my best. Yeah, we work with Professor Kemp at the Bristol Bay campus, teaching photovoltaics 101. We also do a lot of on-site trainings, in the field trainings, hands-on training. We do a lab course. I think we've done one in Bristol Bay and Juneau, and we're working on a few others. It's in the works. But anyways, here's my information. Yeah, what are we even doing for workforce development in Alaska? Right now, the answer is not a lot, unfortunately. We basically get these RFPs. We are a contractor. We go and build these projects. And sometimes we, train some people while we're doing the projects. It's the other things we're doing, aside from that, is like some online training. Obviously, Professor Kemp and Mr. Bolger and I and Amanda and a slew of other folks, some of them are even in this class or in this presentation right now. We're part of a Train the Trainers program, and they are all certified instructors in PV 101. There's some online trainings that you can do through SEI, Everblue, online university trainings. This is not an entire list of everything that's available, so please don't take it that way. This is just a few of the things that we do. We do some in-person training through Solar Energy International, University of Alaska, and Remote Energy. It's a pretty short training. They give you like the basic information you need to kind of go out into the field and maybe get a start. But it's not like a continual education thing unless you keep on going for more and going for more. So, but it is available. We have on-site training. We have a lot of renewable energy projects, obviously, going on in Alaska right now. And a lot of times the contractors who work on those projects hire and train local labor to do operation and maintenance, to construct the project, even if they are qualified to do so. Sometimes, we will hire local electricians to help us build the solar array because they're qualified to install the electrical portions of the project with us, and we train them on that. Sometimes we hire just regular labor. This is actually a photo of us training the local operator on the systems in Manly Hot Springs. They got a new solar array last year. And we did like a 4-day training with both of their operators on the different system components and how they work, and, when the blinky light goes off, what to do, who to call, what to check. So it's not a lot, but it is a basic, training for them so that they don't hurt themselves, essentially, and they can, know who to call if they need help. And then the last one's trial by fire. We just build a project and we just throw somebody at it and hopefully they don't get hurt. That's obviously not a good one, everybody. Like we shouldn't do this. I've seen it happen. This is not good. But it happens more often than you think. We go into these communities, we build these projects, and maybe training and operation and maintenance doesn't get written into the RFP scope, or any number of things, or the project runs out of funding or something like that. I think those are things that we should put at the beginning of the projects that we construct instead of at the end. That should be, front and center when we go to build these projects, that we put in funding for operation and maintenance and sustainability on these projects. It's great that we're building a whole bunch of them, but they really do us no good if we don't keep them running for the life of the system. So what do we need? Well, we need more people like Kyle. He's going to talk next. The reason I put this picture in here was for a little bit of a laugh, but also this is, I'm going to get a little sentimental here. This is my trainer. This is the person who trained me. He came up from down south, part of a program, trained me, and got me going in the industry. And we really just need more people to train individuals on safety and installation of systems and how photovoltaics work. You have to have just more opportunities, more Kyles. We need more training opportunities for potential operators. Like I said before, we often build these systems and then we just leave them in the community, and we're like, oh hey, we'll come back later, we'll train these guys later. It'll be working for a while. It's a low maintenance system because it's solar, whatever. And I know I'm talking mostly about solar because that's mostly what I've been involved in so far, but wind is almost the same, even if not more maintenance heavy. So combinations of classroom hands-on training by qualified individuals. You can't just do classroom training or hands-on training. Anybody who's ever gone to school knows that once they've gone into a class and learned some theoretical knowledge, you really can't put that directly into the field. You need training in both. the apprenticeships and the programs like Professor Kemp's program, where he has a lab and classroom, that kind of gives you like a really good base. But you really need an extended amount of training for both classroom and hands-on. You have to understand the theory and the physical actual installation and maintenance training on these systems. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of turnover. You're going to have a lot of failures. You're going to have a lot of people getting really frustrated that they don't know how to work on these systems and they don't have training. I've been on 2 different projects now where they're like, "Wow, you turn this over to us and you didn't really give us any knowledge on how anything works." And it's like, well, I mean, you're right, we didn't. We should absolutely do that. But whether the project ran out of money or there was no funding in there for it, we always try and go back. I think that's one thing that needs to be said, is that like, you have a duty, if you're installing these programs in these projects, to train somebody to be safe and monitor them. You need longer term training opportunities. You can't send somebody to school for 2 weeks and think that they understand everything about solar installations and solar maintenance and commissioning. And SEI has online courses that are, I don't know, like 6 weeks long sometimes, and they have like dozens of them. And I think they're all like multiple weeks long, and that's just the theoretical knowledge. That's not even the in the field training. So we don't have a lot of opportunities for those in Alaska, and I think that's something that needs to be a little bit more developed, whether we do it online or whether we do it here locally in Alaska or something. Like when we build these systems and we train these people and we train this workforce, it needs to be a continual long-term thing. It can't just be like, hey, go to this class for a week and come back and hey, you're an operator now. Good luck. Whenever a project gets built, there needs to be return trips and warranty trainings, multiples, not just one. You have to deal, like I said before, with rollover. You have to deal with maybe somebody just rotating out, moving away from a community, or just leaving. It's not just rural communities, it's also local. Like, you constantly have rollover, you never know who's going to be there. And it's kind of our duty to make sure that these systems continue to run. Otherwise, they're completely worthless. We spend a lot of money for no reason if we don't keep them operating. Whether that is a warranty training plan or something in a contract that says you'll make 3 return trips that you bid into the contract or something, it needs to happen. And one thing we haven't really talked about is that project managers need to write that into the scope of the project, so that people can consider that in an upfront cost for a project. Also, maybe grant funding or something like that. Project managers can always find something somewhere squirreled away. And this is a really important thing, just as important as building the project. Continuing education for qualified persons. So if you have a qualified person that you're expecting to work on this project, realize that these systems are highly technological. The system that Kyle's working on in this picture has pages and pages of settings, and it constantly updates itself, and you have to check on it. This is high technology, and you need to have continuing education to learn how to maintenance or continually maintenance and update those systems. It's not just like a one-time thing. As an electrical administrator and a journeyman electrician, every 2 years I have to take 16 hours worth of continuing education, and that's just to keep my license. That's not even the continuing education I learned just in the field, by doing stuff that I haven't done before. So yeah, that's a big one for workforce development for the state of Alaska. Is like, a lot of times we go in and we train these people once and we're like, good luck, see you later, on to the next. We can't be doing that. So this is one Amanda specifically wrote in that I didn't consider. Remote monitoring capability on all sites to help troubleshooting. I totally spaced this, and when she told me, hey, you forgot this, I was like, oh man, I kind of feel silly because I constantly preach about this. This is my soapbox one. Remote monitoring is a necessity, probably one of the biggest ones on a project. You cannot build a system, construct a system, or maintain a system without remote monitoring capabilities anymore. It monitors so many different things, and it also assists the operator with troubleshooting. Especially if, I mean, what are you going to do every single time something happens? Are you going to fly to, Galena or Manly Hot Springs or Kotzebue to figure it out? You really have to have something there to assist you with troubleshooting the operator on site. Plus, that's a training opportunity for the operator. So, if you can help people over the phone, man, you're really saving a lot of money and time. What you need to put in for that remote monitoring, that's an engineering thing. There's a lot of different things you can monitor on these systems, but you need something. Yeah. Safety training. This is the last one for me. Man, the system we worked on recently was 1500-volt strings. And I just got a video yesterday of a combiner panel that was still on fire when the video was taken. And the operator had no idea what to do or what was going on. And they called me and they were like, "Hey, what do I need to do?" And I had to walk them through everything they needed to do to shut the system down. And that's like a monthly occurrence, it seems like. Safety training is a big one, especially on these systems that we're dealing with high voltage DC current. And everything in the system is dangerous. It needs to be gone over again and again. It needs to be a long-term training opportunity. It needs to be a return training opportunity. Every time you touch on training, safety needs to be touched on again. So, apprenticeships. We need something resembling an apprenticeship for at least renewable solar, wind techs. I don't know what that looks like yet. I know a lot of people are throwing it around and working on it. I'm looking at a couple people in here maybe who are working on that. There's a lot of really good people doing a lot of really good things in Alaska right now. That's just not quite there yet. But we need some sort of accredited system for these operators, something for them to work towards, something to continue their education with, something to point them in just the right direction on what to do, and something to keep them continually learning. I guess it'll probably be a little while because I don't know if anybody's dealt with the apprenticeship system in Alaska, but I'd rather go to the DMV. I'd rather go to the DMV twice than deal with the apprenticeship system in Alaska sometimes. But I think it's something that really just needs to happen at this point. There's so many of these systems going in and so many people doing this. So I'm done preaching. This is our contact information. If anybody needs to get a hold of Amanda or I, you'll probably get a lot more useful conversation out of Amanda. But feel free to call us anytime. If you have any questions, here's our phone number, here's our email address and our website. And this is like one of my all-time favorite pictures. This is the first class that Amanda and I actually taught by ourselves at the ATC in Kotzebue. And this is just the start of like our workforce development training. And all these guys passed their class and got their certificates, and several of them now work on systems in Alaska. So a big win. And I just want to continue to keep doing this. So we need to keep on keeping on with the workforce development and training, guys. That's all I got.
Great. Thank you, Kolt. It was great to hear about all of your ideas for what we should be doing next. And yeah, also really inspiring to hear about and see the photos from the work you are doing, which I think should not be written off as any small feat. There was one question, but I think I'll hold it until the end because I think a couple others might be able to weigh in too. So we will move along to Kyle Bolger, who was already hyped up by Kolt. But Kyle is a solar consultant and instructor. And he is going to share about some of the training formats that he's found success with, and how we are stacking up with the broader national training landscape. So take it away, Kyle.
All right, thanks. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now and hear me. See if I can get this into slide mode. All right, thumbs up. Anybody? Everybody can hear me? Okay. All right, thanks. Great. So thanks for the introduction, Colt. Way to put me on the spot. Appreciate that. I did grow up in Alaska, so my heart is still there, and I'm really honored to be able to help as much as I can, despite the fact that I am in New York these days. But I've been doing solar all over the country for better part of the last 20 years in a variety of roles. So that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today, of what's going on nationally and how that could help influence what's going on for you guys in Alaska. So I'll go over a couple of the different programs that are available for you guys to use as resources outside of the Alaska, as well as training opportunities that are either online or places you could go to outside of Alaska, despite my desire to have you guys take all the classes you can from Professor Kemp and the UAF system. But the first one here, the first organization you guys should all be aware of if you're not already, is the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, also known as IREC, right? So they've been working across the country to standardize as much as possible, expedited permit process, expedited interconnection agreements, expedited training facilities. So they're really trying to tackle as many of the problems as they can. And this is a little bit funny, but also the stark reality is that they grade all of the different states based on their interconnection agreements or interconnection guidelines. And unfortunately, Alaska, according to IREC, has got an F rating. So at the end of this, I'll have a list of all the websites, and I'll share that with everyone so you guys can go to that. But you could look at some of the other states around the country and see how they're doing. There certainly are quite a few states that also got an F. Alaska's not alone. But there's also several of them with an A+ rating, B's and C's. And so you can kind of see the progression of like what IREC is determining your state as sort of easy or hard to work with, and how you can make those improvements. So another thing that IREC is doing beyond the interconnection is apprentices. So what we're talking about here, getting more homogenized programs across the country for creating apprenticeship programs in the solar industry specifically. I was very lucky. I grew up in my electrical world in Oregon, where I went through a limited renewable energy technician training. So my apprenticeship program, I was the first apprentice in the state back in 2003 to start the program from scratch. So I was kind of the guinea pig. Ended up being 4,000 hours of on-the-job training and 300 classroom hours and a 4-hour engineering test after 2 years of all that. And I had to do all that before I could work even one day in the field on my own without someone looking over my shoulder. So apprenticeship programs vary across the country pretty widely. Oregon was pretty strict. But what IREC is trying to do is create some guidelines so that different states or different areas that want to develop apprenticeship programs don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can kind of use their guidelines. So they've got two different resources. One of those is the actual guidelines, national guidelines for apprenticeship standards. So again, you can go to this website and download this document and read through it. It's actually quite fascinating. It's very well done. And I highly recommend this standard just to look at. But even if you read the standard, you might still figure, well, that's nice. How do I get started? So they have another program on launching an apprenticeship program. So you can go through the Apprenticeships in Clean Energy, or the ACE network, sponsored by IREC, and please utilize them as a resource. Another sort of national resource beyond IREC is NABCEP. A lot of people have heard of NABCEP, and they sometimes misuse the term. So I just want to clarify all the things that NABCEP is. If we look at this PV installation professional certification. This is the what most people think of when they hear the term NABCEP is this one certification, or this one piece of this pie, you might say. But there's other sections of this pie. You could be a PV design specialist, a PV install specialist, commissioning and maintenance specialist. I won't read them all, but you can see there's a myriad of job task analysis, JTAs, that they put behind each of these credentials. And basically, NABCEP is a voluntary certification organization. It doesn't qualify you to actually do any work in any state on its own. That said, some states have adopted it and said, oh, okay, well, if you have NABCEP, you're allowed to be a solar installer. But many states, you still need some sort of electrical license, like Kolt with his administrator license there in Alaska. What NABCEP does not do is actually provide any training at all. They're only a certification process. So you have to go out in the world and find training that meets all of these needs. And there are what are called NABCEP approved courses, but they're not quote unquote NABCEP courses. They are the certification agency, not the education agency. So just wanted to draw that line in the sand. And now we can talk about some of those training resources, again, outside of Alaska. So several of them are online. So any village, anywhere, as long as you've got a Starlink or fiber optic or some sort of even dial-up these days, you can get online and still take some of these trainings. So MREA here is the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. They've been teaching classes since 1990. Solar Energy International started in 1991. So these are tried and true, long-term teaching organizations. Mayfield Renewables is an engineering firm, but they also have quite a few free training resources online. Remote Energy, as the name would imply, specifically focuses on remote areas or places that really need training that are underserved is probably the best way to say that. And HeatSpring, also another online resource, and Everblue is a little bit more traditional mainstream, but let's just go through a little bit of what each of those have to offer. So Midwest Renewable Energy Association, they've got, all these different in-person classes. If you feel like you need a trip to Wisconsin at some point, you can actually go get real hands-on work at their facility with all kinds of different equipment. So highly recommend people check them out. Solar Energy International, this is the agency that I've taught for almost 20 years now. By the way, I'm not getting any kickbacks from any of these companies. This is just my opinion of who is good people to go take courses with. But Solar Energy International has got lots of online training. They've got, ways that you can search by technology, delivery methods, certification programs, certifications and licensing resources. So just going to their website in general can get you to a lot of different resources throughout the industry. So highly recommend you check out SEI. HeatSpring is a little bit more of a freelance education resource. If you go to HeatSpring and you're taking a course, it's a bunch of different individuals that have created curriculum and offered it on this platform. So the quality and the relevant, information of these courses probably varies a lot more. It's not all up to date, but a lot of it is free. And it sort of crosses a bunch of different barriers, solar, heat pumps, building science, energy storage, etc. So I'd highly recommend you check out the HeatSpring platform. As mentioned, some of these courses are free. So Navigating the Transition of Internet Connection Queues by Tim Taylor is a free course. Any of you can just go sign up and take that class. Or courses could be, somewhere in the range of $900 for a solar PV bootcamp. If you wanted to, sit for the NABCEP associate level, which is sort of like NABCEP Lite, the very entry level test. Mayfield Renewables has recently started doing annual education summits. So they had a very successful one in Austin, Texas last year. They haven't announced where the 2025 one is going to be yet, but I'm sure that'll be equally successful. Mayfield's been teaching solar classes and doing engineering in Alaska, specifically on several different projects. So they're pretty excited to keep furthering that work. in the Arctic climates. They also have a couple of free resources online. So again, if you go click on their website, it's amazing how many of these companies will at least get you started and get a taste for what they're doing in some sort of a free course. Or you can go to their more extensive courses, UL 9540A and energy storage. This is a huge hot topic. Some of you might know, but we recently had a very huge catastrophic battery fire in the lower 48, Moss Landing near Santa Cruz. So fire and energy storage is a hot topic these days. Or it could be even real, nitty gritty insulation resistance testing, something that every electrician really needs to know how to do and should be doing in the field, or more specific solar power management and solar racking systems. So, and finally, the last one, which I really don't know as much about, but I wanted to include them just to keep it well-rounded. They serve a little bit more corporate clients. Like you can see, they're bragging about it here, 500 plus corporate clients with 85,000 students. So that's nothing to be ashamed of. But they really target companies that want to, have their entire staff go through all of their process. And they do have a pretty detailed solar training course specifically there. So, didn't want to count them out, even though I don't have quite as much experience with them. And then, as I promised, I've got a list of all these websites, so you guys can go check them out soon. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Sad to hear that Alaska has an F, but great to see all those resources. And, we got a lot of the people in the room who are going to bring up our score, I'm sure. So I will move us along to our last presenter, Ingemar Mathiasen, who is the energy manager for the Northwest Arctic Borough. I'm really excited to hear from Ingemar about, all their work with systems in Alaska and how they're kind of holding together solar operations and maintenance for the region and for all these projects and what they found success with. So yeah, take it away, Ingemar.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's see if I can get this to share. There we go. Everybody can see that one?
Yes.
Okay, so I will be talking a little bit about how we've been holding it together since about 2008 when we started it, and a little bit about remote monitoring and what we're doing up in the Northwest Arctic at this point. So it's 10 villages that most of you know the region. I don't need to go too much into it. Kotzebue is the hub, and there are no roads up there. So we have been running an energy steering committee since 2008 through 2025, 17 years now, and been successfully unifying the region towards an energy future. And it's really, really important, I can't emphasize how much, to continuously return. So 2 times a year we come together, springtime and fall time usually, in Kotzebue. Our next meeting is actually next week, 5th and 6th in Kotzebue at the Electric Hotel. And we look through where we're at with things. We bring up the plan of what we're doing. And every 3 or 4 years or so, we upgrade the energy plan as new project comes into existence. And the main thing with these plans is adaptability and lessons learned. You never complete an energy plan. There's just too many new things continuously coming into the picture. I mean, when we started this, we were even thinking about, okay, we need to unify with the same kind of equipment everywhere so we can help each other. Well, technology is advancing too fast for that. There is just no way to do that. And most companies fall away after a while. It's very rare, actually, that after 10 years, the same company actually exists for what you put in 10 years earlier. So having some kind of plan of continuous upgrading the system as they is going to change. The initial ones we did with our water plans is now getting to the point where the microinverters, they are obsolete and we need to change them and upgrade those. So having a plan ongoing and also look at the vision. Why do we develop these systems? So we wanted a clear vision for the future from the people, for the people, right? And don't develop energy resources, just make money. We develop energy resources that can sustain the region for the foreseeable future and create that cleaner environment we want for our kids. Let's see if I can get this to move. Why doesn't, oh, there we go. Okay, so we have the energy plan that we created in 2008. And in 2008, there was no talk about climate. We were doing wind turbines. There was no solar even though I had solar arrays at that point. Nothing happened until about 2010 when we started to look at small solar arrays. The ones that I actually had on my place 30 years ago are still in effect, still working fine after 30 some years. So if you take care of solar arrays and manage them, they'll last a long time. They do degrade and you have to keep an eye on them, of course, but they're pretty low maintenance. We're aiming for a 25% decrease of fuel by 2030. We might get there if we can hold on to our federal funds that are currently on hold. We're aiming for 50 if we can by 2050. And in 2012, of course, we added this, 2016, I think, to combat the rapid climate change due to the greenhouse gases and other harmful effect of fossil usage. So we added a climate part of the plan. And in the meeting that we're going to have Thursday, the 6th, we'll be talking about climate mitigation, because at this point, the communities are starting to have severe problems. Things are falling apart, not the least, the energy systems that we're putting in. Bulk fuel tanks falling in the rivers, and the ground is getting unstable. So the climate part of it need to be part of the plan also. And of course, remote monitoring. We were very successful with the Shungnak project, and in a lot had to do with the Agito portal that created nice graphics where we could see and monitor everything continuously. We still do. We have one person that is always checking on these, and of course myself, but we have one person dedicated in Kotzebue that can check in on these systems and see what's going on together with the operators. The electric rates are very high. We're climbing over $1 now. Kobuk, Shungnak, and Noatak is over $1 for the expensive fuel. It still balances out fairly good for the households at up to 750 kilowatt hours. But you start getting close to that 95%, just under $1, and even those numbers start climbing. And needs to be kept in mind that the PC equations are balancing out with the natural gas on the rail grid. If that gas goes up and the cost goes up on the rail grid, then these numbers go up too. That PCE is a one stamp rate through the entire Alaska that we have to really manage well to keep those numbers down for the households. So we're operating like this now. By 2021, 22, we got the, 22, we got the grant for the Selawik project that we're now building. With that, from the USDA grant, we created this kind of outline of how we're going to operate. And up in the right corner is repop. So we have actually funded a position at the borough that is the go-to person for the portals and that can check in on anything that goes on. The borough naturally has that capacity anyway. We have search and rescue, and actually the search and rescue coordinator is now the repop coordinator to be the person to bring any issues to the borough and back out if something happens. The red ones are operational IPPs at this point. Noatak, Shungnak, Kobuk, Deering, and Buckland. Selawik will be starting to build this year. It won't be completed until 26 due to the delay on the federal funding. And the Ambler likely also complete in 2026. We also, at some point, may invest the IPP revenues from the utilities and put them into an energy investment fund. Depends if they want to build them up. Ultimately, it's the communities that managing those funds. I mean, we're helping them, but if the money builds up, they could conceivably put it on the market and make some money on it if they don't want to use them right away. I'll get into that in a bit here. So why isn't this going forward? Yeah. Oh. There we go. So how much is clean renewable energy? Well, this is where we're at right now. 11% for the region. This is electricity only, right? And how much is in each community? Well, Kotzebue can go up to about 30-35% if all wind turbines and solar arrays are functional together. Shungnak Kobuk is 11%, has been right at 11% all along. That's the capacity that we were seeing anyway between them. Deering and Buckland has wind turbines, so they're slightly different. And the Buckland turbines has been slow in operating, so it's a little lower than Deering, but should be higher. Otherwise, they're back in operation now. But maintenance is important. The turbines were put in 2008 through 2012. So Kotzebue, Deering, and Buckland has wind turbines and solar array included in those numbers there. So here is Shungnak Kobuk solar battery IPP example that we put together. So how did we do it? Well, grant opportunity from USDA high energy cost grants secured by the two tribes, applied together with the borough, and they are connected with a power line so they could work together. And through MOA's working agreement, the two tribes became an IPP. Power purchase agreement was executed with AVAC, and AVAC pays for the solar power and recover the cost partly from the PCE fund. Another MOA was executed with the borough for help with admin and investment of funds, and an investment energy fund is then established if they want to use it. Funds are dispersed as needed for insurance maintenance and eventual further build out of the solar array. At this point, Shungnak Kobuk has chosen not to use their fund yet. You'll see here in a minute how much is there. So it's a 223 kilowatt array, 550 panels, Blue Planet environmentally friendly LPF battery working fine since 2022. Completed in 2021. Total project cost 2.3 million. It was really tight budget on this project, and we see that the project are definitely going up since then. But I did some calculations on this project, and what it actually brings in makes it actually doable over 25 years to pay for itself. If we had borrowed those $2.3 million, it would produce electricity over 25 years for $2.3 million. It would break even just about. So here's the latest on the system. The little number up here is an old one from 22, but you have the numbers on the bottom. So it has done 32,000 gallons of fuel, 1,400 hours of diesel off operation, 2 months of clean energy as of April 24. And this is the breakdown. Currently, they have $212,000 in the fund, and they haven't touched it yet. The breakdown here is administered by the borough as needed, where a tribal employee gets paid together with the tribe. And it's basically the tribe pays the employee and then get reimbursed from the fund through the borough's administration. And the rest of it is approximate breakdown for what it makes every year. Estimated solar IP production per year with a full build-out would look like this. So we have estimated how far we can go with solar for the region without going overboard. So like, okay, you can always build more solar, of course, but you can't put it anywhere. You got to find a place to put it, and you have to match it to a battery. So our best estimates is this is what we can do, and it would produce about 25 to 30% of the electricity in each one of the communities at full build out. We're going to use 1 megawatt batteries. The solar varies in size depending on the load. The Selawik one is actually going to be 700, not 500. So there's some changes on this here. These are the rates for non-firm power purchase are old. They change all the time as the fuel prices change, of course. So this is an estimated one that they put together some time ago. So you can see about 328,000 gallons will be offset, an estimated IPP income at $1.8 million. Okay. Okay, so why is not this going down? I don't know. There it goes. Okay. I have to just push harder, I guess. So this is what it looks like after build out. Let me get back to that one. Okay, so after build out, we also will add in heat pumps. And with the total build out of heat pumps for all the households, we're adding another 90,000 dollars or so for savings for the households, for a total of almost $1 million. Gallons offset about 418,000. These are estimates, of course. The Kotzebue household is a little bit of a problem because there's a lot of apartment complexes in Kotzebue that can't be included in this. So we're trying to find a solution for the households that we can possibly put heat pumps on eventually. And this would be the full build out at about 30% max. Kotzebue can actually go a whole lot higher. This is just solar build out. But with the wind, Kotzebue, Deering, and Buckland will go higher than these. These are just the solar numbers. So by 2028, 21% of the region would be on solar only without the wind included. So that's what I got, unless there's questions.
Thank you, Ingmar. I know we don't have a ton of time for questions and discussion, but I really appreciated that there was some awesome commonalities that you shared with other folks about the importance of continuously revisiting, as well as the, how you guys are putting into practice the remote monitoring. And that was really cool to hear about. There was one question from earlier that I'm hoping we can squeeze in case you guys have anything you wanted to add to it. Kyle kind of touched on it, but Tom Benkert from AHFC asked, are you doing NABCEP training or has the hands-on industry moved beyond that? I feel like you kind of touched on, all the different levels of NABCEP training, but I just wanted to make sure if any of the trainers wanted to add to that or answer that differently.
Well, I can add that the courses that UAF is offering are NABCEP accredited. So if you take those PV 101 classes through Professor Kemp, then you'll get credit so that you could take the NABCEP test, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, thank you. And then I was curious, we have like 2 minutes left. So if no one else chimes in with another question, I was curious what you all thought about the best way to integrate this continuous education, revisiting training. Do you think that there's a combination of hands-on and virtual? Do you think that it could be just virtual? What is your vision for like a starting point for some of these operators to have access to more support as they continue on?
Professor Kemp.
Well, I mean, I think having access to this online training it's very accessible. It's easy to do. That's a fantastic place to start, but absolutely, like the hands-on training is so valuable that we can't get too far without it. So I think making that a priority and finding ways to increase accessibility of hands-on training, I think is an important part of what we need to do.
Yeah, and I will say that working in Alaska is a lot different than working other places. And a lot of the curriculum that we've kind of worked with so far with Professor Kemp has been kind of tailored towards working in Alaska. I'm never going to stop calling you Professor Kemp now. Has been tailored towards working in Alaska, and then when we convert that into field work, it translates a little bit easier. So online is great and gets you some sort of basis for the theory, but you really have to go hands-on at some point.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We are right at time, so I know we didn't have much opportunity for questions, but I will make sure to share our panelists' information in case folks want to follow up, as well as the recording and any slides, so that we can make sure everyone gets this information. You can also send any participant updates my way, and I can share them with the group. I have a couple that I was going to share, but I'll send via email. And with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And yes, sending good thoughts and vibes as we continue to navigate this this landscape we're in right now. And thank you so much, Kyle, Chandler, Ingemar, and Kolt.
Thank you.